A regular talking point at Davos is the UN's Agenda for Sustainable Development, which aims to achieve 17 goals, also known as SDGs, by 2030. Non-profit organisation Global Citizen, which works to support some of the world's poorest countries, says if these goals are to be achieved, an additional $350 billion each year will be required. To highlight this funding gap and to secure these financial commitments, they've announced Global Go Live, the possible dream, a 10-hour live concert across multiple locations featuring artists such as Alicia Keys, Billie Eilish, Coldplay and Lizzo. Priyanka Chopra Jonas was here as ambassador for Global Citizen, and I caught up with her as well as the co-founder of Global Citizen, Hugh Evans. Priyanka, Hugh, it's lovely to see you here in Davos.
Thank you for having us.
Priyanka, let me start with you. You're here obviously as a Global Citizen ambassador. Why is it so important to be part of it and to be here at the forum?
Well, first of all, it's my first time at WEF, but to be here on behalf of Global Citizen is incredible. I've worked with them in the past, and the kind of movement and massive strides that Global Citizen has taken in terms of moving the envelope towards achieving the SDGs is incredible to see. And I'm so motivated every day that I speak with them and I talk to them about making a change in the world. I consider myself a global citizen, someone who's concerned about where the world is going and the kind of world that we will have for our children. And being here at the World Economic Forum, where the biggest movers and shakers when it comes to government, technology and philanthropy, when it comes to multinationals, high net worth individuals, they're all here in Davos, and we're here to implore to them to help us achieve those SDGs that were set up in 2015. 5 years in, we're way off track. We are not going to be able to make 2030 and eradicate extreme poverty. We have a gap of about 350 billion per year that needs to be achieved in the next 10 years to be able to do that. And that's just eradicating extreme poverty, not even poverty. So there's a lot that needs to be done. And like for example, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they donate about 4 to 5% of their wealth annually, and just that makes such a big difference in being able to achieve the goals that have been set out. So if people in the private sector or people who are high net worths, billionaires, MNCs come together and actually be the privileged lot that takes the responsibility of the developing world or the world that is, underserved, then we can actually achieve what we've set out to achieve.
Will they take responsibility, Hugh? Do you think all the world leaders here, the policymakers, as Priyanka said, they're all here at the forum. What do you want them to do?
Well, ultimately we need every single head of state, every head of major corporation and every ultra high net worth individual to step up, because there's so much talk here at the World Economic Forum, and that talk is always about climate change and eradicating extreme poverty, but it's time to end the talk and actually see investment. As Priyanka eloquently said, $350 billion per year is the price tag to end extreme poverty, tackle climate change in the 59 poorest countries. Without that, we simply can kiss that goal goodbye. And we all know how important that is, given that the world's press is dominated by challenges of climate change and extreme poverty. Every single day, we need to press in. And that's why the campaign we've launched is really focused on encouraging the ultra high net worth community to give while they live. As Priyanka said, Bill and Melinda Gates are famous for giving 4 to 5% of their wealth. If every one of the 2,150 billionaires followed Bill and Melinda Gates' lead, you know what that would unlock? $575 billion per year, which is enough money to end extreme poverty twice over in the 59 poorest countries. So it is eminently achievable, but we need a new kind of culture to exist amongst the ultra high net worth community. Yes, they create jobs. We're supportive of ultimately job creation and that sort of economic development, but we need a new level of responsibility if we're serious about these issues.
Climate change, of course, is a huge topic here at the forum. Now, we've seen President Trump address the forum. He's not an advocate for climate change. So how does that impact everything?
There is no debating the science around climate change. President Trump can say what he likes, but we all know that the world is getting hotter. And I think that in our generation, this is not a debate. People aren't saying, is there climate change?
There's no question around it. You can see that with everything that's happening around the world in so many countries, the disasters that we're seeing and how it's affecting the most the poorest countries, the most economically deprived countries, and the people who live there.
And you've seen that and experienced that, Priyanka, so why do you think he doesn't get it?
Well, no one can explain why he doesn't get it. I can't speak on behalf of anyone else. All we can speak about is, on our end, imploring the people who actually do see it. I think it's really important to focus on talking about facts. For example, I'll give you an example of two countries. Japan, which is a country known to have earthquakes very often and have climate problems, which have increased and over the last few years. But because it has the ability to take care of its infrastructure and is a rather relatively richer country than the others, they have shock absorbers in their buildings so that even if there is an earthquake, and if you've lived in Japan right now, at least once in your lifetime you've probably been through it, life still moves on the next day. Whereas Bangladesh, a country which is relatively poorer, I went to Bangladesh recently with UNICEF to meet a lot of the Rohingya children who live in these refugee camps, and the monsoons were coming up, and all they could talk about was that all the homes that they had built, once the monsoons come, landslides are going to come and take it away, and the country doesn't have the infrastructure or the ability to support their people. And that is what climate change does. It affects the poorest the most.
Priyanka, where did this passion to help others come from? You talked about your mother being an influence growing up. Where did it come from?
I think my parents were both physicians, and I think that is a job which I believe comes closest to God. And in our home, philanthropy wasn't a choice. It was just given. I wasn't patted on my back if I did something good for someone else, or if I felt compassion towards someone. I was told that it was my duty because I was privileged. I had a roof on my head. I had the ability to feed myself thrice a day. I have the ability to take care of my family and make choices in my own life. And that makes me privileged. And my parents always told me that no matter how badly off you are, someone is worse off than you. And if we as privileged society don't care, then who will? We have just one world. Really, we've divided ourselves with borders and race and religion and everything else, but eventually we're all human beings with two eyes, one nose. We all get affected by the same things, and it's one world, and the world is suffering.
Hugh, what impact does it have to have Priyanka as part of your initiative?
Well, Priyanka is someone who firstly understands the issues. She's lived them in her own life. She grew up in India. She saw the fact that this was a society that was in some ways, at the forefront of the epicenter of eradicating diseases like polio and some of the preventable diseases. But Priyanka also is someone who knows how to engage and inspire a new generation of activists. With over 100 million supporters on social media, her voice matters so much, and right now, this is the time when we need to kickstart it more than ever. This is the critical moment where the world stands up like never before, because we've only got 10 years to go if we're serious about ending extreme poverty and tackling climate change. 2020 is the decisive year where if the policies are adopted, we will tackle these issues. If they're not, we simply won't. And I think that's why Priyanka's voice is that she inspires a generation of future activists to say, you know what, we all have a voice. Priyanka said something really eloquently earlier about the role of women in society and how women's voices have always been loud, but now through technology, they have the ability to organize at a rate never seen before. And I think that's where her voice as a global citizen ambassador matters most. That's why here in Davos, we're fortunate to be in such a beautiful place, but we need those who have the power to respond, to do so. And it's only going to happen if voices like Priyanka step up, and we're so proud that she does.
Priyanka, you talked about having that power of influence and using your voice, as Hugh says, for these causes. And you've become incredibly successful in your career, both in India and of course now in Hollywood. But does the media spotlight ever get too much for you? Because of course you've got a very high profile marriage. How do you cope with that?
I have been in the limelight for more than half my life. I kind of figured out a way of not letting the worst affect me. You have to develop a hide, like a thick hide. There are people, anything you say or anything you do ends up becoming a global conversation, and people have opinions about everything. Where there are the virtues of social media, these are the vices, is that, you have people that sit behind the anonymity of their computer and have the ability to say anything to you. And I developed a thick hide. I know that the people around me, my friends, my family, who I'm very, very close to, I keep them close to me, and they're my sounding board. They're what keep me with my ear to the ground, and I think that's what's most important. And I tell young people who get affected by the negativity on social media, I say that to them all the time. You know, who are these people? Why are they so important to you? How are they changing your life? When you don't have dinner on your table, are they going to come and give it to you? When you have problems within your home, are they going to fix it for you? So then why are they important? We just have to internally look outside. Social media was created so that we could have a positive impact on society, so that we could connect with each other and be able to get to know people in the best way we can. So I just ignore the negativity and try to live in the positivity.
You're a role model for many, Priyanka. Who are your role models?
So many people. I mean, the young activists today, we were talking about so many of these young girls, Nadia, Emma, Malala, Greta, who's here. Just all of these girls. Like, I mean, at 15, I don't think I would have had, or I didn't know one that I could have had the courage to talk and talk and demand change from world leaders. And those girls inspire me so much to be able to say, wow, look at this generation. I hope that my kids grow up in a world where the world leaders have listened to Greta's generation, because that'll be a better world.
And you have huge concerts coming up.
Yeah, we announced today that Global Go Live, The Possible Dream, will take place on 5 continents around the world, with 7 now concerts announced. It will be in West Africa, across Europe, across North America, across Latin America, across Asia, and now across the Middle East as of today, which is super exciting. So this is going to be an opportunity to unite the whole planet. We're going to be 6 weeks out from the US election, a critical moment where we could actually focus the world's attention on what matters most, which is the challenges of climate change, the challenges of gender equality, the challenges of ending extreme poverty. There are champions out there who have been championing the Sustainable Development Goals, but this is the ultimate platform to unite humanity all at once. And we're fortunate that the best artists in the whole world have already signed on, whether it's Coldplay, Billie Eilish, Priyanka together with Hugh Jackman and together with Trevor Noah are going to be hosting. Some extraordinary people like Miley Cyrus, Lizzo, Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers have all signed on to perform for free, and it's going to take place all around the world all at once.
And the impact that you hope to have?
Well, the impact is very simple. $350 billion is what Priyanka talked about, is the amount of money the world needs to invest if we're serious about ending extreme poverty and tackling climate change in the 59 poorest countries. So we're not measuring just based on what Global Citizen can announce on the day. We're putting the spotlight on what the world needs to do to step up like never before. Because we know that unless, as we said earlier, unless billionaires, unless philanthropists, unless governments, unless the private sector steps up and use this moment, then we can kiss ending extreme poverty and tackling climate change goodbye. And I, for one, am not prepared to let that happen. It's my life's passion, it's my life's work. We want to see 2020 to be our generation's moment. Whereas Live Aid in 1985 worked to tackle famine, 2020 is our moment.
Hugh, thank you. And Priyanka, I just want to ask you, what's next for you, both career-wise and also in terms of your philanthropy?
I mean, it's a new decade. It's the beginning of a new decade. I have some really exciting things coming up this year professionally, a couple of movies, a TV show. I'm developing a bunch of things which I'm very excited about. So professionally, I think it'll be a really interesting, fun year. And I think when it comes to my philanthropy, the Global Go Live is really, really exciting to me. I'm really looking forward to working with Global Citizen to be able to achieve that, to be able to work with UNICEF, which has been a major partner of mine for almost 12 to 14 years, to do another trip with them and also work with my foundation, just all of it together.
Is it hard to balance it all?
Well, there's no free lunch in the world, so if you want the moon, you're going to have to get onto a rocket and get there.
That's great. I like that. That's
Reach for the stars. Priyanka, Hugh, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much.